All right, so basically I received them in sort of title, working title, and I say, yeah, I like it. And basically say, well, it has been 3 years. Time maybe, to draw sort of bilan and to look at what's ahead. How does this work? Like this. So my outline is very simple, so far and from now on, okay, which complies with the title. Right, so far. This is something that most of you have seen, 6 times at least, so I'm not going to expand. Just to remind you a simple fact of life, before you undertake any venture, you've got, to get money somewhere. So when, this particular department was put together again, or rebranded, July the 1st, 2008, for a number of reasons which I'm not going to expand on, they are there. The enlargement, online content, and all the rest of it. The first task, which kept us busy for nearly 2 years, was basically to procure money. We are not different from you. We milk the cow, you come and milk us. It's a transfer of the process. Now, what I want to stress, because this has had some implications, may have even a stronger implication in the future, this money, these resources, came from 2 different, pots. The research program you're all familiar with, but also the innovation program. More on that. Right, so I like to think that the last 3 years have been, at least from our side, some sort of a giant community building exercise. Yes, so we have invested a large amount of money on putting LT back in the system, okay, in the EC system. Of course, a number of useful, ideas, have been selected, a number of, hopefully, useful projects being set in motion, but by and large, the purpose was to create space, volume, okay? We have these, ground terms like ERANET and so on and so forth. This was a mini ERANET, for the language technology field and community. So the choices that have been made since were basically dictated by and linked to this very purpose. So bring you back, put you together, create again conditions for reasonably ambitious cross-border partnerships, and therefore the work programs and the calls, etc., were designed to be broad and to give each of you something, at least as an opportunity. The idea being to assess, after 2 or 3 years, the response from the field. And the response is basically synthesized by these 2 statements. First call of 27 submissions, the last 3 or 4 months, 200 submissions. That suggests that, at least in terms of volume, we are getting somewhere. And by spring next year, there will be no less than 50 projects up and running. So I think, the community building phase, in a way, is over. It has been successful. Now, if we take a closer look at this process, the last 3 years, we see that, one of the dimensions, that we care of, i.e. broader participation, going beyond, the old hands, the regulars, the serial proposals, that's been at least partly achieved. We have just survived, a couple of calls, while the second one is still in progress, but we can at least, we have figures about the first evaluation and selection. So 200, evaluations, twice more than 400 different organizations. So that is not quite as same as 800, but probably in the region of 600 and more, with a request which exceeded by a substantial factor of the money available. And year after year, call after call, we attract 40 to 45 countries. So that means that we go beyond the 15 topmost research teams that everybody has more or less in mind. There is a nice, interesting spread. The other element was, to try and achieve, a balanced or more balanced representation of academic and industrial commercial concerns. So if we take a look at one call, enterprises, businesses account for 39% of the participants, and in the recent SME call, for obvious reasons, SMEs, represent 57% of the participants. So if you take these 2 elements together, I think we are doing not too badly in terms of creating new partnerships across the academic or academia industry borderline. Now, to do what? Because, throwing money at people just for the purpose of, making them work together is interesting, but in the long run, it's not a very effective way of using public funds. What you see at the top is the motto, the slogan for one of our recent calls. I'll let you read it. It's very simple. In terms of action lines or research lines, we opted for the broadest possible and yet sensible kind of menu. So from a global or multilingual content processing, somebody mentioned authoring, editing, translation, publishing, through mining or analytics or whatever term you want to use. I like autonomy very much, by the way. So if you want to attract to your association autonomy, I'm all for. Okay. And the third element, speech-based, natural interaction. So by choosing these three themes and the specific elements of each of them, we try basically to create, stimulate useful things and reasonably ambitious endeavors. At the same time, to create opportunities for the largest possible range of players to come and join. So I take, one call, the call 7 as we call it, just as an example. So what's the result? 16 projects, 104 partners from 24 different countries. Is a good spread. So it shows that, the community goes beyond, 3 cats and 2 dogs. I've already mentioned, the nice balanced, spread of intervention between different, categories, enterprises, universities, other labs and others being often, embedders, integrators, vendors, and a few users. We still got, plenty of work to do on the user side, on the buyer side. The themes, well, if you ask, for multilingual content processing, you get translation. We've got plenty of translation, but not empty core activities. We've got, pre and post editing. We've got, crowdsourcing. We've got, different ways of combining, integrating, various approaches. Text mining, analytics, or whatever term you want to use, the standard things, and speech recognition. There we asked, for dialogue, for conversational systems. More often than not, we've got speech recognition coupled with transcription and translation. So that is not as successful as some of the others, I must say. Right. Who participates in successful EU-funded projects? Well, plenty of researchers, as you would expect. There have been a constant flow of references, to one or the other of these projects, during the day. We have, a growing number of commercial developers of technologies, mostly or exclusively SMEs, as we speak. We have, the first signs of the emergence of what I call vendors of LT-enhanced or enabled products, search, content, media management, but also, translation agencies and the like, or media localization concerns. So, it's broader than you might think. Right, last slide, as far as I remember, on so far, and that is for those, who ask or think often about language resources. There have been a couple of references. 1/3 of our projects by next spring will address language resources. So I think, in a way, we are the most stubborn, sponsor of language resources-related activities, although maybe they are less visible than others in some respects. So we have projects addressing, the tooling element, automatic acquisition, cleanup, alignment. We have, projects addressing what I call the content element, basically making existing national, monolingual, and bilingual resources more accessible and fit for, web, online reuse. We have a meta share. I leave, to Stelios, to present, the current state of affairs, which is a service element. And we expect, as an outcome of the ongoing SME call, another 7 or 8 projects at least, which are supposed, to illustrate, the slogan, which is more quality, clean data, means, or leads to better technology. Okay, so, and the subtitle of that operation is adding value to data, recognizing the value of data. So, so you see a range of partnerships, a number of players, and language resources underpinning, most of our activities. Now, that is in terms of projects and project lines. But I think, what we have done in addition, which is to me more important, and certainly closer to my heart, has been to try and set in motion actions that, with a bit of luck and a lot of effort from your side, will help, organizing the field and giving the field a different, shape, color, and height and width in the coming years. So MetaNet, there will be again presentations. That's, to me, the research vision, agenda, and roadmap. Okay, attempts, to create, a coalition out of many different research lines. MetaShare, but also, the projects current and upcoming in the area of pooling, trading, reusing research results, what has become known as language resources in this field. We are addressing, language technologies within the global web through another successful, thematic network, multilingual web. And basically, in the last few months, I've been preparing, and tomorrow we will launch activities which are designed, to address the technology transfer update. What's the purpose of pouring money into research if, the results don't reach the market? As simple as that. So Rose, had a nice, colorful slide. I simply have text, as I always do. Tomorrow, somewhere here in the area, at 10 business, industrial, commercial organizations. Now, which leaves one dimension out so far, and that is basically dealing with member states, agencies, and players and national programs, which we intend, to look at and start working on after the summer break. So now, for what reason? Why all this? Can't we just, launch calls, sign contracts and leave you folks in peace? It's because there is more coming. So this is there from now on. The immediate future, tomorrow, and the very near future, 2014, which you might think, that's, an historical perspective. No, they are both, starting as we speak. And I believe I've been in the business, long enough. I've grown cynical over the years. The more the Commission changes, the more everything stays the same. I think this time is not going to be business as usual. There would be a number of sweeping changes, you'll see. So first, the very short term, bringing the current framework, the current financial round, if you want, to its end. And there is more than 1 billion, up to 1.5 billion euro available, not for the language technology field, of course, for a broad range of policy areas. There will be one or two calls from the second half of next year on, and the work program will be accepted and published in June next year. So we have 1 year to actually come up with a credible and sellable strategy, and the troops, the coalitions behind it, because it's more and more a fight. It's not guerrilla, it's a war between different communities, different groups, okay, and different coalitions. Now, I can produce, a standalone work program, which is 1 or 2 pages in 1 day. This is what I routinely do. I cannot, push them in the envelope, beyond a certain budget envelope. For that, you folks, you must be very vocal, okay? Now, and I don't think it would be good, for me to keep writing, work programs without you providing a vision and a strategy. So, we start October the 1st, which means we have some homework to do in July and then again September. We start consultations with you people from October until December, January next year. Online, email, a few face-to-face meetings, plus input from the largest, broadest, range of ongoing actions, MetaNet, of course,